First, Murphy Brown in a very special piece. As you know, Murphy has interviewed some of the most powerful people in the world.
Oh, that's
very, very true.
From a vice president declaring war on a fictional character to a support group for traumatized secretaries, Murphy Brown became one of television's most controversial and quirky sitcoms. Behind the sharp-tongued journalist's witty comebacks lay bizarre casting choices, tragic real-life events, and crossover moments that defied network boundaries. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Murphy Brown. Fact 1. 93 secretaries fired in 10 seasons.
Hi, I'm Murphy Brown. You must be my new secretary.
Oh, good morning, Miss Brown.
And you are?
I'm Stephen.
If you thought your boss was hard to work for, imagine trying to keep a job with Murphy Brown. Over the course of the show's original 10 seasons, the sharp-tongued television journalist went through an absolutely staggering 93 different secretaries, making her one of the most impossible bosses in television history. This wasn't just a throwaway gag mentioned once or twice, but a carefully tracked running joke that became one of the series' most memorable elements. Every single secretary who came and went was officially listed in the closing credits by their number, from secretary number 1 all the way to secretary number 93, ensuring that each unfortunate soul got their moment of recognition before being shown the door. The parade of secretaries included everyone from incompetent bumblers to highly skilled professionals who simply couldn't tolerate Murphy's demanding personality. Some secretaries lasted only minutes before quitting or being fired, while others managed to stick around for most of an episode before Murphy inevitably found some reason they weren't good enough. The show even featured celebrity guest stars playing these doomed assistants, turning the secretary position into one of television's most coveted cameo roles. The writers eventually took the joke to its logical extreme in one particularly clever episode when Murphy stumbled upon something unexpected, a support group specifically created for her former secretaries. These traumatized former employees would gather together to share their experiences and comfort each other over their collective inability to meet Murphy's impossibly high standards or survive her legendary temper. The support group scene perfectly captured the absurdity of just how many people had cycled through that position, turning what could have been a simple recurring gag into a self-aware commentary on Murphy's difficult personality. Fact 2. Dan Quayle started a culture war.
Single mother was nothing more than a cynical bit of election year posturing. I prefer to give the vice president the benefit of...
In one of the strangest collisions between politics and entertainment, Vice President Dan Quayle decided to use a fictional television character as a political weapon during the 1992 presidential campaign. On May 19th of that year, just 2 days after Murphy Brown's season finale aired, showing the character giving birth as a single mother, Quayle delivered a speech at the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco that would change everything. He specifically called out Murphy Brown by name, criticizing the show for mocking the importance of fathers by having the character bear a child alone and calling it just another lifestyle choice. What made this particularly bizarre was that Quayle was attacking a made-up person as if she were a real threat to American family values. The backlash was immediate and enormous, with the controversy dominating newspaper headlines and television broadcasts across the country. Show creator Diane English fired back with her own statement, and the debate over single motherhood and family values became one of the hottest topics of the election season. When the next season of Murphy Brown premiered in September with an episode directly addressing Quayle's comments, a staggering 70 million people tuned in to watch, representing 41% of everyone watching television that night. The episode featured Murphy responding to Quayle's speech and showcasing diverse family structures, including a parade of non-traditional families. Interestingly, the controversy actually helped both sides in different ways. The show's ratings skyrocketed, while Quayle got exactly the kind of attention he wanted for his family values campaign message. Years later, even Candice Bergen herself admitted she agreed with some of Quayle's points about the importance of fathers, though she maintained his specific criticism of the show was arrogant and uninformed. Fact 3. Candice Bergen voluntarily declined Emmy nominations.
Guys, and this is all for you, and thank you for helping me with my marks every week.
In what remains one of the most unusual displays of humility in Hollywood history, Candice Bergen did something almost unheard of after dominating the Emmy Awards for years. Between 1989 and 1995, Bergen was nominated for Outstanding Lead Actress in a comedy series 7 times for her portrayal of Murphy Brown, and she won the prestigious award an incredible 5 times during that span. She only lost twice during those 7 years, defeated by Kirstie Alley for Cheers in 1991 and Roseanne Barr for Roseanne in 1993. After claiming her 5th Emmy in 1995, Bergen made the surprising decision to voluntarily withdraw her name from any future Emmy consideration for the role, even though Murphy Brown would continue airing for 3 more seasons until 1998. Bergen's reasoning was straightforward and generous. She felt she had been recognized enough times and wanted to step aside to give other talented actresses in comedy a fair chance at winning the award. This wasn't a situation where she was frustrated with losing or dealing with any kind of controversy. She was actually at the peak of her success and could have easily continued collecting nominations and potentially more wins. The decision shocked many in the entertainment industry because actors and actresses typically dream of winning even a single Emmy in their lifetime. And here was someone walking away from the possibility of adding even more trophies to her collection. The impact of Bergen's withdrawal was immediate and significant. Her exit from the category opened the door for Helen Hunt to begin her own impressive 4-year winning streak for Mad About You from 1996 through 1999. Fact 4. The house was also Wonder Woman's home.
Hi, Mom. Back.
In a fun piece of television trivia that connects 2 groundbreaking female characters from different eras, Murphy Brown's Georgetown townhouse had actually been seen on television screens years before the show even premiered. The exterior building that was used to represent Murphy's home throughout the series was the exact same building that appeared as Diana Prince's residence in the 1970s Wonder Woman series starring Linda Carter. This meant that 2 of television's most iconic and independent female heroes technically lived at the same address, even though they existed in completely different fictional universes separated by more than a decade. The reuse of this particular building wasn't some kind of deliberate homage or intentional connection between the 2 shows. It was simply a practical decision made by location scouts who found a building that worked perfectly for what Murphy Brown needed. Television productions frequently reuse exterior shots of buildings for different shows because finding the right look for a character's home can be challenging. And once a good location is identified, it often gets used multiple times across various productions. The building clearly had the right aesthetic for portraying the home of a successful, professional woman living in an upscale neighborhood. What makes this connection particularly interesting is how well it actually fits both characters, despite them being so different. Diana Prince was a superhero with Amazonian powers who worked at a government agency, while Murphy Brown was a hard-driving television journalist battling her own personal demons. Yet both were portrayed as strong, capable, independent women who were breaking barriers in their respective fields during their time on the air, making their shared television address feel almost like a symbolic passing of the torch between 2 generations of groundbreaking female characters. Fact 5. Heather Locklear was CBS's first choice.
Who put their greasy fingers all over my Emmy?
It's almost impossible to imagine anyone other than Candice Bergen playing Murphy Brown. but the role very nearly went to a completely different actress with a vastly different image. When CBS executives were first developing the show, they had their hearts set on Heather Locklear to play the rough-and-tumble recovering alcoholic journalist who had just returned from rehab at the Betty Ford Center. At the time, Locklear was known for playing glamorous characters on shows like Dynasty and T.J. Hooker, and the network believed she would be the perfect choice to anchor their new comedy series. However, show creator Diane English had a very different vision for who should bring Murphy Brown to life. English was absolutely determined that Candice Bergen should play the role, and she refused to back down despite pressure from the network executives who wanted Locklear. English saw something in Bergen that the network didn't initially recognize. Bergen had primarily been known for dramatic film roles and hadn't really showcased her comedic abilities on television before, which made the network nervous about taking a chance on her. English understood that Murphy Brown needed to be more than just physically attractive. The character required someone who could convey intelligence, world weariness, sharp wit, and a certain edge that came from years of hard living and professional battles in a male-dominated field. English's instincts proved to be absolutely correct. Bergen's portrayal of Murphy Brown became one of the most acclaimed performances in television history, earning her 5 Emmy Awards and turning the show into a cultural phenomenon that ran for 10 seasons. The show even included a subtle reference to this casting drama in an early episode where the character Eldon asks Murphy if she knows Heather Locklear. Fact 6. A Seinfeld crossover nobody expected.
Hi, I'm Murphy Brown. You must be my new secretary.
Oh, good morning, Miss Brown. I'm Stephen Snell.
In one of the most surprising crossover moments in television history, 2 shows from competing networks actually shared the same fictional universe for a brief moment in 1992. The Seinfeld Season 3 finale, called The Keys, ended with an unexpected scene that left viewers doing double takes. After Kramer left New York to pursue an acting career in Los Angeles, Jerry and Elaine were shown watching an episode of Murphy Brown on television, and there was Kramer appearing on the actual Murphy Brown set as the character Stephen Snell, playing Murphy's newest secretary. The scene featured the real Candice Bergen as Murphy Brown, who told Kramer's character that she had a very good feeling about him, which was ironic given Murphy's track record of going through secretaries at an alarming rate. What made this crossover so unusual was that Seinfeld aired on NBC while Murphy Brown was a CBS show, meaning rival networks were essentially acknowledging each other's fictional worlds. This kind of cross-network cooperation was extremely rare at the time because networks typically wanted to keep their shows separate and avoid promoting their competition. The crossover worked perfectly as a joke because Murphy Brown's revolving door of secretaries was one of its most famous running gags, making Kramer just another in a long line of doomed assistants. The gesture was appreciated so much that Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David actually returned the favor by appearing on Love and War, another sitcom created by Murphy Brown's Diane English. In that episode, they played themselves and were shown reading a script where Kramer sleeps with Elaine, creating yet another meta moment that connected these different television universes in unexpected ways. Fact 7. Bob Newhart retrieved his secretary.
Oh, Carol, thank God you found it.
Murphy Brown's parade of secretaries included many memorable guest appearances, but one of the cleverest crossover moments in the show's history involved bringing back a beloved character from another classic sitcom. Actress Marsha Wallace appeared on Murphy Brown playing a secretary who was actually incredibly competent and efficient at her job, which was almost unheard of given Murphy's impossible standards and her tendency to fire people within hours or days of hiring them. The twist was that Wallace wasn't playing a new character at all, but was instead reprising her role as Carol Kester, the witty and capable receptionist from the Bob Newhart show, which had aired on CBS from 1972 to 1978. For most of the episode, Carol worked seamlessly with Murphy and proved to be exactly the kind of secretary Murphy had been desperately searching for throughout the entire series. Everything was going perfectly, and it seemed like Murphy had finally found someone who could not only tolerate her demanding personality, but actually excel at the job. Then came the brilliant punchline that tied everything together. At the end of the episode, Bob Newhart himself appeared in character as Dr. Robert Hartley, Carol's former boss from his own show. He showed up at Murphy's office and desperately pleaded with Carol to come back and work for him again, explaining how much he needed her. Carol, being the loyal employee she had always been to Dr. Hartley, agreed to leave Murphy and return to her old position, leaving Murphy right back where she started in her endless search for a competent secretary who would actually stay. Fact 8. Eldon was based on a real painter. One of Murphy Brown's most beloved characters wasn't just a clever creation from the writer's room, but was actually inspired by a real person who had a similar effect on people in his own life. Eldon Bernesky, the laid-back and philosophical house painter played by Robert Pastorelli, was based on a real-life painter named Gabe Kiss. The character perfectly captured the essence of those contractors who start a job with grand plans and endless enthusiasm, but somehow never quite manage to finish what they started, always getting distracted by new ideas or artistic inspiration along the way. In the show, Murphy hired Eldon to repaint her Georgetown townhouse, and what should have been a straightforward job turned into a 6-season saga of unfinished projects and perpetual renovations. The running joke was that Eldon had so many ambitious and creative ideas for Murphy's house that he never actually completed the basic task he was hired to do. Instead of simply painting walls, he would get struck by sudden artistic inspiration and start creating elaborate, socially relevant murals throughout the house, or he would become obsessed with achieving the perfect color or technique, leaving Murphy's home in a constant state of construction chaos. The character resonated so strongly with audiences because almost everyone has experienced hiring a contractor or handyman who overpromises and underdelivers, or who gets so caught up in the creative aspects of a project that the practical completion date keeps getting pushed further and further away. Eldon eventually became much more than just Murphy's painter, evolving into a trusted friend and confidant who later took on the role of nanny for her son, making him an integral part of the show's family dynamic. Fact 9. The show brutally mocked its own network.
So we had to do something, get the old gang together, take on this crazy new world of alternative facts and fake.
In what remains one of the boldest moments of a television show biting the hand that feeds it, Murphy Brown dedicated an entire episode to savagely mocking CBS's struggling programming choices during a time when the network was getting absolutely destroyed in the ratings by NBC. Throughout the mid to late 1980s, CBS had been consistently losing the ratings war to NBC, which was dominated by powerhouse shows developed under the leadership of legendary executive Brandon Tartikoff. The situation had become so dire for CBS that the network was willing to greenlight just about anything in a desperate attempt to compete, and Murphy Brown decided to call them out on it in spectacular fashion. In the episode, Murphy's fictional news show, FYI, was tasked with announcing CBS's upcoming fall television lineup, and Murphy made no attempt to hide her disgust with the quality of shows the network was planning to air. The highlight of her scathing commentary came when she revealed that one of the upcoming programs would actually star a chimpanzee as its main character. Murphy's brutal honesty about how terrible these programming decisions were turned what should have been a promotional opportunity for CBS into a public humiliation, with the character openly questioning what the network executives could possibly be thinking. The ending credits even showed Candice Bergen as Murphy announcing the airtime for the chimpanzee show to various CBS affiliate cities, including the non-CBS city of Montreal in Quebec, adding another layer of absurdity to the whole situation. What makes this episode even more remarkable is that CBS actually allowed it to air, essentially letting one of their own shows mock them mercilessly in front of millions of viewers. Fact 10. Eldon actor's tragic death. The life of Robert Pastorelli, who brought the lovable character of Eldon to life on Murphy Brown, ended in tragedy that shocked fans and left many unanswered questions. On March 8, 2004, Pastorelli was found dead in the bathroom of his Hollywood Hills home at the age of 49. The coroner determined that he had died from a fatal blood concentration of morphine, with drug paraphernalia discovered at the scene. His personal assistant found him slumped over a toilet with a syringe in his arm, along with a metal spoon containing dark residue and a small piece of cotton nearby. What made Pastorelli's death even more disturbing was the timing and circumstances surrounding it. Just before he died, authorities had informed him that they were planning to arrest him for further questioning about an incident that had occurred 5 years earlier. On March 15, 1999, Pastorelli's 25-year-old girlfriend, Chara Monjanovich, had been shot in the head and killed at the same house where Pastorelli would later die. At the time, Pastorelli told police that they had been arguing when she suddenly pulled out a handgun and shot herself. The coroner initially ruled her death as undetermined, investigating it as either an accident or a suicide, and Pastorelli was publicly exonerated of any responsibility. However, after reviewing the evidence years later, authorities changed their conclusion and reclassified Jonovich's death as a homicide, citing staging of the crime scene and scientific evidence showing the firearm had been handled after it was discharged. Pastorelli had been warned that he was now considered a suspect and that an arrest was imminent. His death by overdose occurred shortly after receiving this information, leaving the case permanently unresolved. Fact 11. Hillary Clinton's secret cameo. When Murphy Brown was revived for a new season in 2018 after being off the air for 20 years, the producers decided to pull off one of the most closely guarded secrets in television by featuring a mystery guest star in the premiere episode. The network went to extraordinary lengths to keep the identity of this special guest completely hidden from the public and even from the press, who normally receive advance screeners of new episodes. CBS deliberately did not include the scene featuring the mystery guest in any of the screener copies sent to critics and journalists, ensuring that absolutely no one would be able to spoil the surprise before the episode actually aired. When viewers finally tuned in to watch the premiere, they discovered that the surprise guest appearing as Murphy's latest secretary was none other than Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State and Democratic presidential nominee, who had run against Donald Trump in the 2016 election. Clinton's appearance was particularly clever given the show's long history of cycling through celebrity secretaries, and she played along perfectly with the joke. During her scene, Clinton told Murphy that she was qualified and ready on day one, referencing her presidential campaign slogan. She also made a self-deprecating joke about having some experience with emails, a clear reference to the email controversy that had dogged her presidential campaign and became one of the most talked about issues during the election. The cameo was perfectly timed for the revival, which positioned itself to tackle contemporary political issues just as the original series had done during its initial run. The secrecy surrounding Clinton's appearance generated significant buzz and media coverage, giving the revival exactly the kind of attention-grabbing moment it needed to announce its return. Fact 12. The breast cancer storyline saved lives. Murphy Brown's final season in 1997 and 1998 tackled one of the most serious health issues facing women by making Murphy's battle with breast cancer the central storyline for the entire 10th season. This decision to dedicate an entire season to such a difficult topic was bold and risky, especially for a comedy series, but the show's writers were determined to handle it with both honesty and sensitivity while still maintaining the humor that made the show popular. The storyline followed Murphy through her diagnosis, treatment decisions, chemotherapy, and recovery, giving viewers an unflinching look at what breast cancer patients actually experience. One episode in particular sparked significant controversy when it showed Murphy using medical marijuana to help relieve the side effects of her chemotherapy treatment. Conservative groups attacked the show for depicting drug use, even though it was being used for legitimate medical purposes under difficult circumstances. Despite the backlash, the show stood by its decision to portray this realistic aspect of cancer treatment that many patients actually rely on for relief. The impact of Murphy Brown's breast cancer storyline went far beyond entertainment and actually saved lives in a measurable way. Health officials reported that the number of women getting mammograms increased by 30% during the year the storyline aired, as viewers were inspired by watching Murphy deal with the disease to get their own screenings. This dramatic increase in early detection screenings meant that countless cases of breast cancer were caught earlier when they were more treatable. In recognition of the show's profound impact on public health and breast cancer awareness, Candice Bergen was presented with a special award from the American Cancer Society, honoring her role in educating women about the importance of prevention and early detection. Fact 13. CBS approached Bergen for 60 Minutes. Candice Bergen's portrayal of Murphy Brown as a hard-hitting investigative journalist was so incredibly convincing and authentic that it actually led to one of the most unusual job offers in television history. After Murphy Brown ended its original run in 1998 following 10 successful seasons, CBS executives approached Bergen with a serious proposal that would have transformed her from playing a journalist on television to actually being one in real life. The network wanted to offer her a position as a correspondent on 60 Minutes, the legendary news magazine program that has been a cornerstone of CBS News for decades and remains one of the most respected journalism programs in the world. The offer made a certain amount of sense from CBS's perspective, even though it was admittedly unconventional to recruit an actress with no formal journalism training or experience. Bergen had spent a decade inhabiting the role of a tough, no-nonsense reporter who could interview anyone and get to the heart of any story. And she had done it so convincingly that viewers could easily imagine her conducting real investigations and interviews. Additionally, Bergen actually did have some relevant background that many people didn't know about. She was an accomplished photojournalist whose work had been published in prestigious magazines like Life and Playboy, demonstrating that she had genuine skills in visual storytelling and an eye for capturing important moments. However, Bergen ultimately declined the offer from 60 Minutes, explaining that she didn't want to blur the lines between being an actor and being an actual journalist. She understood that there was an important distinction between playing a role and doing the real work, and she felt it would be inappropriate to cross that boundary despite how well she had portrayed a journalist on television. Fact 14. The prosthetic breast joke. Controversy during Murphy Brown's 10th and final season, which focused entirely on the character's battle with breast cancer, the show faced criticism for a joke that some viewers and advocacy groups felt crossed the line from humor into insensitivity. In one episode, Murphy was shown shopping for prosthetic breasts after her surgery, a very real and often emotionally difficult experience that many breast cancer survivors go through as they navigate their recovery and try to regain a sense of normalcy. During this scene, Murphy made a joke asking whether she should go with Demi Moore or Elsie the cow, referencing the famous actress known for her beauty and the cartoon mascot of a dairy company, suggesting a choice between glamorous and exaggerated options. Women's health groups immediately protested the joke, arguing that it made light of a serious and painful aspect of breast cancer recovery that millions of women face. They felt that the line trivialized the emotional trauma and difficult decisions that come with breast reconstruction and the use of prosthetics, and that it was inappropriate to turn such a sensitive moment into a punchline. The controversy highlighted the difficult balance the show was trying to maintain between keeping its signature irreverent humor while also treating a life-threatening illness with the seriousness and respect it deserved. Despite this particular controversy, the overall response to Murphy Brown's breast cancer storyline was overwhelmingly positive. Medical professionals, cancer survivors, and health advocates praised the show for its realistic and honest portrayal of what breast cancer patients actually experience, from the fear of diagnosis through the challenges of treatment and recovery. The storyline successfully raised awareness about breast cancer screening and treatment options, demonstrating that even when individual jokes missed the mark, the bigger picture impact was genuinely beneficial. Fact 15. Candice Bergen. Candice shares. Emmy record Candice Bergen's performance as Murphy Brown didn't just win over audiences and critics, it also established her as one of the most decorated actresses in Emmy Award history by placing her in an extremely exclusive club of performers. Bergen won the Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series 5 times for playing Murphy Brown, a remarkable achievement that tied a record shared with only 2 other legendary actresses in television history, Mary Tyler Moore, who won 5 times for The Mary Tyler Moore Show, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who would later match the record with her 5 wins for Veep. This means that out of all the countless talented actresses who have starred in comedy series over the decades of television history, only these 3 women have ever won the category 5 times. What makes Bergen's achievement even more impressive is the consistency of her recognition throughout Murphy Brown's entire run. Between 1989 and 1998, Bergen was nominated for the award 7 consecutive times, meaning she received a nomination nearly every single year the show was on the air during its original run. Out of those 7 nominations, she won 5 times, only losing twice during that stretch. Her losses came in 1991 when Kirstie Alley won for Cheers, and in 1993 when Roseanne Barr won for Roseanne, both of whom were delivering iconic performances on their own groundbreaking shows. The recognition from the Television Academy helped solidify Murphy Brown's place as one of the most important and well-crafted comedies in television history. And Bergen's record-tying 5 wins remain a testament to how perfectly she embodied the character and brought Murphy Brown to life week after week for an entire decade.